Hi guys! And welcome to another episode of To My Younger Self,
the #1 support network for students and graduates.
made by young people for young people.
It's Alicia here.
And it's your girl Praise. And
today we are joined by Malone. Massive round of applause. So just to tell you a little bit more about our special guest today, if you haven't heard of Malone, he's an author, a podcast host, a property investor, a founder, the list goes on, an advocate for representation and equity in medicine, and you've won awards like being on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, been featured in Time Magazine, Zimbabwean Young Achiever of the Year, Rare Rising Star, which is where I met you, and #1 undergraduate student in the UK.
Woo!
There's some real talent in the room. So
sounds crazy.
Yeah. I was like, when I was listening, I was like, Alicia, how long is this?
Yeah,
How do you feel hearing that?
That's probably even half of the list.
Exactly.
It feels good to know there has been like recognition. Yeah, I think it feels good to know there's recognition. Quite cool actually to hear it out loud.
Yeah,
like,
we'll get into all of it a bit more.
You should be really
later.
proud of yourself.
But
Incredible.
first things first, something that we always do at the beginning of all our episodes is a segment called Vibe of the Week. So Vibe of the Week is basically you giving a recommendation to our viewers, our listeners, of something that you would recommend. It could be a book, movie, film, holiday destination, drink,
And no pressure, but this is our listeners'
album.
favourite segment.
Yeah, people really enjoy this.
Vibe of the week.
Do you want me to
my
go first,
God.
what you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Praise, do you want to guess what mine is?
Oh, mine's the same.
Is it? No, we have this.
So my Vibe of the Week this week,
The
guys,
Substance.
is The Substance. It's a movie. And Alicia and I actually went to watch it after we filmed one of our episodes earlier.
Have you seen it?
No, I
The
haven't even
Substance?
heard of it.
Oh, you need to watch it. It's insane.
What is it about?
So I don't want to spoil it at all, but it's a horror film.
Horror. Was it horror?
Yeah, that's definitely
Okay, makes
horror.
sense.
All right, I'm not going to
I
watch
know
it.
it's like gore,
It doesn't feel
gore
like it.
horror. And it's basically the concept, I don't think this is a spoiler, but the concept is that this woman is very unhappy with her life and her appearance.
Yeah.
It's very like appearance focused, and it touches on like patriarchy and like the male gaze of women. And she's an older lady now, she's 50. She still looks incredible, but it's like she's comparing herself to like young 20-year-olds.
And the industry that she's
Yeah.
in is requesting for a newer, younger, fresher version
Yeah.
for the job that she has at the moment.
Yeah, because she's in like Hollywood, essentially.
As soon as I hear the gore part, I'm like,
No, truly, it's
like, leave
one
me
of
out
the
that.
worst things
It's the
I've ever watched in
craziest.
my life, but it's an amazing film. The whole cinema was
It's good.
screaming.
Yeah.
Wait,
were
screaming in fear
together.
or?
It was like, ugh. Like, how can
Do
you
you want
be
to see a
saying
little
this?
video of one part of it?
Okay, go.
Because I actually took
I
a
hate
video
horror
of it.
films. Like, as soon as I hear anything horror,
Look.
is it like jump scares though? Is it
No, it's like disgusting.
No,
like-
but the thing is, you could
like,
think,
look at this. That's. I don't want to say a spoiler for the audience, but that's blood.
what is going on?
like, it honestly, it felt like it started off like a normal Mean Girls film.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
good.
filmed, and the cinematography was excellent in it.
Yeah.
So if you're into that, I'd
I like
truly
good cinematography,
Yeah.
but I don't like the gory
push
part, or
yourself a
like,
bit.
Push
Try
yourself.
it.
I'd
I
have to
don't
go with
recommend.
someone, and someone would have to hold my hand. And I literally, in a horror film,
We
I will
were-
lity be there like.
That was me. First.
I had my coat above me screaming. I
Yeah,
was like,
we were actually screaming. And may I just add, like, I love horror films and I'm an absolute adrenaline junkie. So it's not every day that a film has me screaming like that.
yeah, that's the
Like-
first time I've ever felt
Yeah.
like that. I felt like I was going to throw up once we got up. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't know why I'm still here.
But it was actually good. What would you rate it out of 10, Praise?
Truly like a
I think
9.5
it's a
out of
9.
10.
Yeah.
It was
It's
that
actually
good.
good.
You know what?
Unexpected.
I'll watch the trailer on my way home and decide if it's something I can put myself
You
through.
should, you
And if it
should.
is, I'll go and watch it. This
And
weekend.
usually Alicia and I's vibe of the weeks, and it's never been the same.
Yeah,
but
that's
this
the first time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, no pressure.
my vibe of the week. Ooh.
Could be a show, a film, a movie, anything.
Okay, the only thing that comes top of mind, just because this was the last song I was listening to on the tube is randomly I've started listening to Joey Badass.
Oh, I think I have a few songs of his.
And I used to listen to him ages ago.
Mm.
And you know when you listen to someone like growing up and then you just stop listening to them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then now you found their songs again.
Is that-
and it feels
oh.
like listening to their songs, but when you were like 16. That's probably the only thing I can think of, which is...
No, that's good.
music.
Do you have a
Good
particular song you'd recommend?
500 Bends.
500.
And the only
I'm gonna save
reason
it right now.
Joey Badass 500 Bends, I don't know, that song when I listen to it, it makes me feel like I'm in LA. Because a few years ago I went to LA, like to San Francisco and LA, and there's like the road from San Francisco to LA is like all coastal, and it just makes me feel like I'm driving down that road again.
Yeah, perfect
Oh,
song for
that's
it.
nice.
Okay, I'll give it a listen.
I've just
to.
added it to my like songs because I have Show Me and Love Is Only a Feeling. by
Yeah,
Joey Badass,
like it's
so
kind of...
sing
Yeah, Show
along.
Me is a good one as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same vibe as like Show Me, like that kind of calm, mellow type rap. But
Okay.
yeah, like it's a difference from drill or any nonsense rap that I've been listening to.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
that's
I'll
one
give
genre
it
I
a
don't
listen
listen
to.
to.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good.
brilliant. Okay, so now we'll get into the thick of the episode. But firstly, obviously, I've introduced you. But if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, maybe anything that I left out, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Malone. I'm an Arsenal fan. And I'm going to start my introduction with who I actually am, not what I do. So I'm an Arsenal fan. I like cinematography, videography, photography. I also, like a few years ago, I went through this crazy phase of buying trainers literally every single week. I think that first year of student finance basically funded Nike's like entire department. But I grew up and I stopped doing that. And yeah, that's a few things about me. And then what I do, I am currently a final year medical student. By the time this episode comes out, I'll probably have like less than 3 months to go to becoming a doctor.
Woo!
And final year medical student, I wrote a book because in my medical training, I noticed that we're not taught anything when it comes to how anything looks like on any skin tone that's not white. And for me, it was kind of crazy because I was like, I'm black, obviously. And I know that everything that we're being taught does not apply to me. And it would just make me think like on our course, there's like less than probably like 5% of people are black. And I'm like, if we're not saying anything about it, obviously everyone else is probably not even going to notice there's a problem. I kind of went on this massive journey of solving that problem, which kind of led to the accolades that Alicia spoke about earlier. And yeah, like we're still trying to figure stuff out. Did a lot of stuff that worked, which was really cool. Did a lot of stuff that didn't work, which was a bit of an L. But like all of it has kind of just compounded to this sofa right here today.
That's so cool.
That's such a good introduction.
Yeah.
I really like how you said, I'm going to start with who I am, not what I do. Because this was something me and you were talking about the other day. I remember was talking about identity. And, you know, like that's such a difficult question to answer as well. Who am I? So the fact that you can answer that and list your hobbies and passions first is nice.
Yeah, and I feel like lots of time people actually struggle to say what their hobbies are. Like you have to think, oh, what do I actually do? Sounds like you have a few.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I see this a lot with like medicine and I guess like vocational degrees as a whole. Like people's identity is their degree.
And their work.
Yeah, and they struggle to detach their work from themselves. I mean, I kind of struggle to detach my work from myself. But I try where I can. I try to make an active effort.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, even I'm like trying to improve on that as well because you know our introduction episode praise. My friend Jack watched it and he was like, "It's funny how you guys introduce yourself as LSE graduates. So that's the first thing we say. Who are you? I'm an LSE grad. I do this. I work in consulting." But it's like you said, it's actually bad because you should be able to separate like who you are from your work.
Yeah. Plus, it's like if you tell me you're an LSE grad. When I leave the room, I know zero about you besides LSE. And you might be like the coolest person on earth, but as soon as you say LSE grad, there is an assumption that I make about you. Or if you say like Oxbridge, or if you say like UCL, like there's just all these stereotypes of all these institutions that I'm just going to slap that label on you. Like, oh,
no, that's true.
What, you're Imperial grad? Oh my God, you must be the smartest person on earth. Like, just random stuff like
that's
that.
That's actually true. One thing you didn't mention that I read yesterday, you were born in Birmingham.
No.
Is it?
Where did you read that?
That was on it was on Red Rising Star, and I was like,
Oh,
wait,
they
I
made
did
an
not-
error. Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking he was born in Birmingham.
No,
and I
no,
read
no. I actually told them about this. I was born in Zimbabwe,
it. Right.
but I grew up in Birmingham.
Ah.
that was, like, at the time I did mention it, but I guess the print has already come out, so no one changed it.
I was thinking, I didn't know that.
I
Are
didn't
you from
hear it in
Birmingham?
the accent.
No, I'm from Leeds.
Oh,
So then I was
okay.
like, oh, okay. But you don't have a northern accent at all.
Now
to say you
the
grew up
viewers
there.
are going to spend a whole episode trying to decipher, okay, your accent sounds like this, it sounds like that.
It doesn't.
I think I just blend in with wherever I am. If I go back to Birmingham for like a month, I'll just restore back to factory settings. If I go to Zimbabwe for a month, I come back basically speaking like I'm natively born in Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Because I feel like people can tell from my accent that I'm not from London, even though I've been living here for like 10 years. There's certain
I
words
can
like
tell.
class
Like
instead
words,
of class.
certain
Bath.
words.
Was that different as well?
Yeah, it's got a northern twang.
Yeah.
Oh no! Now that you said that, the listeners are definitely.
I'm surprised you kept it up for so long.
What, the northern?
Yeah, but
twang?
I get it.
I think I don't want to let it go. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if we're talking north-south divide, like the north needs to continue prospering. Like
Yeah.
these Londoners are just diluting everything.
Okay,
Exactly.
guys. It's all right. Anywho, so you mentioned that obviously we've just spoken about who you are and not what you do. But now we're going to speak a bit about what you do that you did mention. And obviously you don't need to explain why medicine, but what was your journey to that?
Yeah, so my journey started... I would say my journey actually started at sixth form. Everything prior to sixth form, I think I was just kind of freestyling life, didn't really care, kind of wanted to play for Arsenal. That type of typical teenage boy fantasy.
Yeah.
But then when I went to sixth form, my secondary school was in like a rough area in Birmingham, so we didn't have a lot of exposure to stuff. I literally was very close-minded. I then went to a different sixth form, which was in a completely different part of town, like completely different like social economic class of people. And all of a sudden, like all of these things, like people are talking about law, management consulting, medicine, dentistry. And I was like, I went to a school prior and people were just as smart. Like intelligence wasn't a difference. It was just, I just moved like across the pond and the conversations were completely different. At sixth form, that's where I kind of got exposure to like higher education. So like Oxford, Cambridge, all the London unis, all the Midlands unis. And originally I actually wanted to go to Oxford. Did the whole application. I did the BMAT, which is like an entrance exam to get into medicine at Oxford. And I failed. I think I was like 1 mark off qualifying for an interview. I then also had other universities on my UCAS, rejected from all of them. So I got my A-level results and I literally had no uni to go to.
Did you get the A-level results that you wanted?
Yeah, so my A-level results were good. I just had no offers. So like when everyone's talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to Barts or I'm going to like Nottingham, I was just there like, just got this.
I feel like that's good for us to talk about as well, because I feel like successes are everywhere, but not actually the rejection, which is behind every success. Because even me, I remember I don't know for praise for you if your UCAS journey was a bit more straightforward, but even for me as well, I got rejected from Cambridge and then I got rejected from everywhere else apart from Durham. And then I realised I didn't want to go to Durham. I only applied because Jack Edwards goes to Durham. And then I know it's a really bad reason to apply. And then I had to wait for ages before I heard that I got into LSE as well. So there was that like uncertainty that you feel with rejection. How did you deal with that?
Weirdly for me, I didn't actually deal with the rejection because I knew way before I got my A-level results that I'd got these rejections. Because when you're applying for medicine, you apply before everybody else. So if I remember correctly, the application's in like October.
It's early on.
yeah.
So you do like the earlier deadline.
Yeah.
So basically by like February, March time, I knew that I had all these rejections and I was going into my A-levels with 4 rejections.
Wow.
Okay.
So it was like, well, all I can do is just get good results and kind of let the rest figure itself out while I'm there.
Yeah, no, that's a good mindset to have, definitely. Definitely. So then moving forward, you mentioned already about your book, Mind the Gap, which you published in 2020, which is a handbook of clinical signs in black and brown skin. I actually wrote a quote here that I saw you say online. It's more than just a handbook, it's a movement for change. I really like that quote because it's true. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Like, I love it when people say stuff like, "Oh, I read a quote that you said online," because in my mind's like,
which one?
What did I say?
which one was this? What did I say? Like, I hope it's something that is actually good.
No, that's definitely something good.
But to say like it's more than a movement, it's more than a handbook, it's a movement for change. That came from a place where it came from a place of insecurity actually. And the insecurity was I originally thought that, oh my gosh, like people are gonna look at it and go like, oh, like surely we want more. So me saying it's more than a handbook, it's a movement for change, was part of it was I was insecure about how small it was in comparison to like standard medical textbooks.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it was actually like this handbook represents more than what you're literally seeing in the book itself. It's actually, this opens doors to a whole conversation that is never had in medicine about like, what does this condition look like on darker skin, or why do we do this for certain patients and we do that for other patients? And that was kind of what I was trying to spark in that moment, and I guess it worked. If you saw it,
it definitely.
I think
worked.
it's so interesting. Even like when from the start, when Alicia mentioned like the book, I was like, so when I've been to doctor for something and they misdiagnosed me 3 times because of how it appears on my skin, and they were like, oh, maybe it's not this, or maybe it's this. And I was like, hello, like, can someone sort this out? Let me know what it is. Yeah. So I definitely think what you've done is incredible. Truly.
Thank you.
Truly.
I think it's even stuff like that. When you say stuff like that, at medical school, people, or just in the world of medicine generally, people take stories like that and they take them to be very anecdotal. So they're like, oh, that's just your story. But like everybody else doesn't experience that. And I'm like, I could probably we could walk on the streets of like Brixton right now and just do a random survey in the street. How many people have had a similar experience to you? And it would not surprise me if there's like 60, 70% of people are saying the same thing. But the world of medicine will tell you, no, like these people are just, it's all anecdotes, which is crazy.
I wanted to ask you more about the writing process, because what you did was so revolutionary. I'm wondering if there were any challenges in actually doing that. So like in terms of finding data and like you're mentioning now surveys, because what you were doing was so new, like it hadn't been done before. Were there any difficulties, I guess, in actually finding the data for what you was writing about?
Yeah, there was, even to this day, there's still difficulties. But the initial difficulty was I approached it as, oh, like surely to find a picture of eczema, like darker skin is not that deep. Like there's so many people in the world with eczema. I'm just gonna type it on Google and it's gonna come up, and nothing was coming up. So finding pictures, generally speaking, of anything was just like digging on like page 24 of Google for something, which like barely anyone ever makes it that far through Google. Or it was like random patient blogs from like many years ago, or like I'd watch a YouTube video and someone's like, oh, like I suffered with this. And then I'd have to like go on the about, find their email them, not come across like a creep or like anything like that. But we managed to get about over 100 images in that process.
That's incredible.
But then we had to like cut through some of them because it was just little things like, for instance, if someone has if you have eczema on your hand here, but you have a tattoo there, we can't use that image because hypothetically speaking, someone could trace.
Identifiable.
Yeah, like who is this? Yeah. And like there was just little things like that, or like, just random things which were very identifiable in the pictures that we couldn't use some of them, and they kind of just got left behind.
I think that's such an interesting topic as well that you raised about Google image searches, because I remember I did an experiment before. I can't remember what this was for, but it was just like investigating into racial biases that are there in Google images. Because if you were to type into your phone now in Google certain keywords like I don't know, consultant, you'd see flooded images of one particular type of person, which might be white male, in a briefcase in a suit. And then if you to type in things like cleaner, you'll see ethnic minorities. Like, it's never the other way around, and it's obviously quite bad in terms of conditioning and how we see certain professions.
Yeah, I just, even like when you type in like, it sounds really bad, but like when you're looking for like, even when you're looking for clothes, for instance, and you type in like streetwear, and then pictures come up. But then if you type in like streetwear and you put like urban or like ghetto or just these random keywords which makes it bring up, and you know, like as soon as I put that, I'm gonna get black guys, or as soon as I put this, I'm gonna get
you
and
know,
it's just really bad.
This makes me think, I'm not sure if you guys use Pinterest.
Yeah, I do.
So before, when I was younger and I'd use Pinterest, I'd have to put in, like, say I want like hairstyles or something, I'd have to put black girl. Or if I wanted like nails, because obviously color looks different on different people, I would have to put like black, like just black next to it.
Yeah.
But they added this feature where you can
thing.
see skin tone, like you press
Did they?
like the shade of your skin tone, and it brings up images like that. And I would like, when you guys were speaking, I was like, is this a good thing? But of course,
I think it's a great
it's
thing.
a good thing, no?
Yeah.
So I think, that's just
even
fascinating
on the
to me.
Pinterest point, that's something that I still struggle with. I didn't know that was a feature, so I'll have to check it out.
It is,
now.
maybe update.
Because when I make thumbnails on YouTube, sometimes I'll take images from Pinterest, and it's like sometimes I want a faceless, like, mixed race person that could pass off as me, but it's like an aesthetic photo, and it's like they're impossible to find.
There's no way you do that.
Yeah,
Are you serious?
No, you're giving me ideas. Like, I need to up my
Yeah, guys,
thumbnail
you
game.
need to just take
Wow.
advantage of Pinterest. And
Okay,
making your
cool.
thumbnails.
I didn't actually think about that.
Come on.
But no, I think it's an amazing feature that they do have for that.
What was it like being a co-author as well? What was that experience like?
It was cool because I got to basically have access to a lot of like the inside things of my uni through like piggybacking off the other authors. If I had just done it myself, I feel like there's certain knowledge and certain experience that I could have never got. So I think by having those, like my co-authors on board, it really helped with that. And it also helped with like dealing with problems, because I think as a student, you don't really have that much like power almost.
Yeah.
But because I was working with them, it was like, actually, like, these are members of staff. So like if they're behind it, clearly there is some sense here, it was good. And I'm still in touch with one of the co-authors to this day.
That's
and I
good.
always say, like, everything that I have done, like, after like getting into med school, without her, like, none of it's possible. Like, if I had to pick like a single point of failure, it's like if I didn't meet her, everything else, like that whole CV that you mentioned at the start, all of it would be completely different as a result. So I thank her for a lot.
Oh, that's really nice. It shows the importance of mentors, which I think is definitely something that comes through on a lot of our episodes. And when you find that connect, because I have quite a few people as well that I wouldn't be here without them. And when you find those like connections with people in like a mentorship capacity to kind of cultivate them, hold on to them. Yeah. And would you write another book in the future? Is the next question.
Boy. I would love to do it. I would love to do a second edition of Mind the Gap. Just because I feel like, to me personally, Mind the Gap was literally just 1% of progress. And I still think we are capable of so much more. So I'd love to do another follow-up edition, which is just bigger, better, badder, sicker,
bigger,
everything.
better, badder.
But it's like there is difficulties in doing that. And at times I've toyed with the idea. And then at times it's like, well, actually, like, I'm at medical school now, and I can't remember the last time I used a textbook.
Yeah.
So it's like, actually, has the world moved on, or is it moving on from books? And actually, we have to just bring it out in another format. There is also other ideas that I'm playing with at the moment, how we can use AI to basically get rid of that hurdle, which is digging on page 24 of Google. I've been playing around with it lately. If I manage to get it working, then it will come out as soon as it works.
Ooh, that's exciting.
But it's like,
We'll be
my
behind
knowledge
it.
level is here, and it needs to get to like here, or I need to bump into someone who's already here.
Yeah.
And just be like, look,
well,
this is what I'm trying to do.
I imagine it's a different hurdle because you've got a medic background, whereas that's like more coding, software
Like
development.
tech, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everything always takes time as well.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. But weirdly, I'm a person that's in a weird way, like I see things in my head way before they happen. And once I've seen something in my head, it's like I just have to go and do it so that my physical can catch up with, I guess, the delulu in my head.
Yeah.
What's already happened.
Yeah, but in my head, it's like it's already happened. Like I know exactly what it looks like. I know exactly like I've seen things in the real world almost. This makes me sound so crazy. But I've seen things in the real world that prove my hypothesis of the things that are in my head. So it's like there is no way that it can't work because there is X, Y, and Z out there already that is working. So
I think that's
obviously
an
it will work.
amazing, well, I wouldn't call it mindset. Like that's you.
Outlook,
but it's an amazing
it's like manifestation.
Skill of yours. Because it's part of you, like it's something that you're able to do.
Yeah, I guess it's drawing inspiration from random things. So like I'm a person that, let's say, like hypothetically, like we're in this studio, like I'll walk into this room and the first thing that I'm thinking is, oh, wait a minute, like if someone can turn this room into a podcast studio, that means if I wanted to have a clinic in here, it would work. And that's literally how like my mind works. So it's like, all I need is to see someone do it in like an adjacent way. And I'm like, if this is true, therefore this must be true. And I don't know, it's a bit weird, but...
On that, do you feel like that has helped you with your degree or not? Because I feel like you have a specific way of thinking. That's what it sounds like. But do you feel like it's easily made you understand things better?
I feel like that's surely must have helped you in life and achieved everything you've achieved. Like having that belief that anything is possible, that you can achieve, you know, what the ideas that you have in your head can come to life.
Yeah, I think, like, to answer your question, has it helped me with my degree? I think it probably has, but the way that I think about it is actually hindered me quite a lot, simply because I sometimes go into stuff and like I want to know why, like the annoying kid, like why are we doing this, or like why do you want me to do this? And a lot of the times in medicine, like there is no time to ask why. You just need to take everything as gospel and just keep it stepping.
It's like economics as well.
So it's like sometimes it's been a frustration where I'm like, I don't have the answer. Like, let me give an example. In women's health, we learn about like endometriosis and all of these conditions. And we're taught that the gold standard way, so like the best way to find out if someone has endometriosis is to do something called an exploratory laparotomy. In simple terms, that means cut someone open, have a look inside. Do they have endometriosis? Yes or no?
I've heard about this.
And to me, it's like when I'm learning that, I'm like, I'm not a genius, but like we don't do that for many other things. Like if we want to find out if you've got a bleed on your brain, we don't crack your skull open and check if there's blood.
Yeah.
So it's like, surely for stuff like that, there must be another way. So in those little aspects, it has been like a hindrance, and yeah, it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're able to not disassociate that, but like learn what you need to learn there and then put that to the back? Because for me, that will consistently bother me if I'm constantly thinking, oh, surely there's another way.
I mean, I just put it to the back of my mind sometimes and just keep it stepping, because I'm like, there's so much stuff that we need to know.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to pass the exam. Like,
do you know, I have to add, I actually feel like education is quite sad in a way. As much as I love it and I advocate for it, I think it really does like dampen out creativity, like that curiosity that we have, and those questions of, yeah, but why is this true, or can't there be a different way? Like you just said, it's like you have to put those on a back burner to pass your exams, because I always had that issue as well. And it's quite difficult, because like hearing you talk, this sounds so dramatic, but hearing you speak the way you do, it feels like I'm sat next to Einstein or something. Like it's like these are the thoughts that an inventor would have, you know, like creating things, creating new things, or like new processes to do things. So I don't think that's something that should be dampened out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess this literally goes into the whole. I mean, last night I made a real TikTok, which was kind of comparing like my academic friends and my entrepreneurial friends. My entrepreneurial friends are very much like, how would I describe it? In the politest possible way, they're not smart enough to see the risk in things. And my academic friends are super intelligent to see the risk in things. Both of them have pros, both of them have cons. But it's like, to me, it's always like, I'm always looking at the two to say, like, why are these people able to get stuff done? And why are these people always like on the fence, sitting there waiting for, I don't know, one more thing to be proved correct, one more thing to be proved correct. And I get frustrated. I think I've been in academia at a high level for a long enough period of time to see that I think sometimes academia at the highest levels, you just have to accept everything as gospel, because that's like how you pass your exams, that's how you get through. When in actuality, I wish there was a space where there was like some critical thinking. Whereas like, actually, like, this is everything that we're taught. Like, let's dissect it. Like, why are we learning this?
I feel like we're grown, like we're raised like that in education, like with syllabuses or syllabi, whatever we want to call it.
Is it syllabi?
Growing up, as you study like GCSEs, A levels,
paths,
you have to follow that and stick within that. Like, you're not going to be asked something outside of that, and that's what teachers teach you.
Exactly.
It ends there,
which is quite sad. Like what you're saying,
is,
like it dampens creativity,
sad.
Dampens. I think we would have a lot more smart people if there was. Obviously, I get why academia is structured in the way it is, because there needs to be some sort of standardized thing to test us on. But I wish there was like maybe like a 10% of your course or your year, whereas actually this 10% is to critically break down why you learn the things you learn, or question truth. Does that make sense? Because
exactly,
I don't want to sound like some conspiracy theorist, but like, what is the truth?
No, it's true. Do you know one thing on this topic as well? I noticed that was the difference between private and state school, because I was state educated, but I went to a private sixth form on scholarship. And one thing I noticed is that I feel like at private school they had way more freedom and way more time to like teach outside of the syllabus and not just teach to the exam. Like in my economics lessons, we'd be talking about things that are actually happening in the world and like coming up with new ideas. Whereas at my state school, especially like in things like business studies, it was always just like, learn this thing to pass the exam. You need to learn this. Like, don't question it.
I thought factors come into that, such as like class sizes as well.
You 100%.
Of course, you have time. There are few people in the class.
So many things. That's a whole podcast in itself.
It is. It really is. We could talk about that forever. But to come back and steer away from our tangent, which is very interesting, I wanted to ask you, what was your reaction to the successes of Mind the Gap? Did you expect it to take off in the way that it did?
No, I didn't. The funny thing is, in hindsight, I say a lot of the success was engineered, and it was all part of a massive plan. And, like, it was all part of the plan. Like, I knew it was going to happen. But in actuality, it was, I was having some issues getting Mind the Gap out. I basically sent it on the group chat to say, guys, this is the tweet. I'm going to make it. And as soon as I post it, I want everyone to retweet it. And then once it gets to like, I think there was like 10 of us in the group chat. Once it gets to 10 retweets, just put comments underneath it. I'm going to screenshot it and I'm going to send it to my uni to say, like, look, like, there's all this demand, even though the demand is my friend.
You're orchestrating. Okay.
And then, like, the power of social media, obviously in that 10 retweets, then other people saw it and other people saw it.
And you had John Boyega.
Yeah, John Boyega retweeted it. And that was the same week that he was on ITV News for something. I can't remember what, but he was very topical at the time. So he retweeted it.
Wow. That must. What was your reaction when you saw that?
I didn't actually see he retweeted it, because
really?
He retweeted it and then it spiraled. So I just saw like 10,000 notifications. So I didn't see it was him. But then, like, back tracing it, it was like, oh yeah, like, it's on his page. Like, that's super cool.
You know what the time period was between initially posting and then the major?
Like, was it overnight or?
Yeah, it literally was overnight. Wow. Because I posted it on the 18th of June 2020. On the 21st of June 2020, I was on ITV News. So
I see.
Wow.
it was maximum 2 days.
Very quick.
Mm.
Wow.
So yeah, it happened all so quick, which was crazy.
That's incredible. It must have been, I bet you were just so shocked.
How did you feel at the time?
At the time, okay. At the time, I can't remember how I actually felt.
Yeah.
But I think I felt like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do with all this attention?
Yeah.
Because I knew from previous like businesses and stuff that I'd done in the past that getting attention is like one of the hardest things to do. And all of a sudden, this attention is now on my lap. And I was like, how do I keep this attention? Or how do I get this attention to go like last me as long as possible?
Yeah.
And then I started doing like random things, which did make the attention last. I would probably say like 18 months, which was, in hindsight, it's pretty cool to think I managed to drag it out that long.
Yeah, that's really cool. And there was like quite a few ripple effects from Mind the Gap. One of them was that it influenced NHS 111 policy. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about that and how it actually influenced that policy.
So for context, in case people don't know, NHS 111 is a service that you can phone to just get medical advice. And when you phone them, they just give you like, oh, like if you phone them and say, I've got a cold, they'll tell you, oh, just you're not gonna die, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Or if you tell them something else, they might say, actually get to hospital as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they would do when you phone them is they would ask you basic questions. So like, are you breathing okay? Are you eating? Are you sleeping? And one of the questions they would ask is, are your lips turning blue? And for anyone with dark skin, like it's very subjective what blue lips looks like. Like you'll look at yourself and think, are they blue? I'm not sure. But in medicine, that question is the difference between like life and death sometimes. So they revised their questions, and now it's if you have white skin, they'll ask you, are your lips turning blue? Because it's easy to see. But then they've added in like a caveat, which is like, oh, if you have darker skin, check on like the inside of your lips. Check for a family member to ask you, is there discoloration? Look for an old picture. Do your lips still look the same? And they've also done that for like jaundice and babies. Where else have they done it? They've done it across different conditions, basically.
Wow. Truly.
It now allows people to phone them and know that they're not being like put to the side. If that makes sense.
Go on.
It makes me think. So I play hockey, and I get hit a lot with the ball, but I don't bruise. Like, so say my friends who are like white will get hit, you will instantly like see a change in color on them. But for me, it's just
so bad.
There's no change in color. It's just I know it's there and I feel the bump, but it almost sometimes. Or the hockey experience is like, because you can see something there, it feels like, oh, like this is serious. Whereas I know, guys, that I'm in pain.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting.
But then things like that then give differential outcomes in hospital, for instance. Because say you and your teammate both come to hospital, a very simple example is a bruise. Like, it's not life and death, but let's just say it was.
Yeah.
Like if I, the doctor, I have 2 patients to see, I come and see you, I'm looking at you and I can see all these bruises. I'm like, damn, like that's crazy. Like, let me sort you out quickly. But I'm looking at you and I'm like, I don't really see much. But even though what you've got is exactly the same, how it's gonna like affect your body is exactly the same. And that then creates like a whole world of like, ex-patients are more likely to die when they get to hospital, which is kind of the movement for change thing from Mind the Gap.
I was literally just going to say, I feel like this whole talk around the 111 policy proves that it's more than just a handbook. It really is a movement, because it's the difference between life and death. And that's why health equity and representation is so, so, so important.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like in hindsight, I absolutely ate with that statement.
That
just slipped off the tongue.
And you left no crumbs.
I didn't actually give it thought at the time, but I'm like, damn, like, I was smart.
literally. So then we move on to 2021, which is when you founded Black and Brown Skin, which is a health startup and educational platform to empower Black and Brown communities in healthcare, and has seen like massive successes, including being sponsored by is it Neutrogena? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's even led to conversations at Parliament as well, which I saw. Could you talk a little bit more about that, your experience going into Parliament and being able to talk about Black and brown skin?
Parliament. I've actually been to Parliament a few times.
Oh, have you?
So I
Wow,
can't actually
incredible.
remember which
Like a
conversation
specific
How
it
has the
was.
experiences been there?
The experiences in Parliament were, in simple terms, brazy.
Yeah.
Because I think going to Parliament's one of those places that you walk into and you realize, like, damn, like this is like another level of building. Like, this is like the highest office in the country, and I'm just roaming around here telling people that, oh yeah, I'm meeting so and so, and people asking you, oh, do you want water? Do you want coffee? And you're like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And I think going to Parliament goes back to that thing that I was saying, like, it made me realize that anything's possible. Because I'm like, I was, 20, 21, like in Parliament, having discussions with MPs and people, like some of the people I can't even name drop, but people who are like running the country basically. And I'm there advising them.
It's incredible.
Which, yeah, Parliament was just cool. And I think it was when I went into Parliament originally, it was, you naturally get scared because you're like, oh, like, maybe I need to put on some like different voice. Maybe I need to carry myself in a different way. But what I didn't realize is that everything that I was my superpower. And me trying to blend in with like all of the Eton boys, like it didn't bring anything else that was different to the table. But when I'm coming in, I'm saying, actually, I grew up like this. My family's from here. I currently live in South London. It's like, that's an experience that nobody else had in the room. So it's like, all of a sudden, everyone wants to listen to me because I'm bringing something different.
I think you being able to identify that is so important, because we had another episode where we were talking about imposter syndrome and being in places and thinking you don't deserve to be here, like in comparison to someone else or someone who has had different experiences. And the fact you were able to recognize that would you say you recognized it from early on, or did it take you a bit of time?
I think I also think it's incredible that not only have you recognized your differences, but I like the way you phrased it, like you view it as a superpower, like view it to your advantage. Because even something that I talk a lot about online is taking your disadvantages and actually make that into an advantage for yourself.
Yeah, true. I definitely agree with that. I think it's initially, obviously, I didn't see it as an advantage, because I think everyone I think we have a natural tendency as humans to want to fit in. And for me, I'd walk into those spaces wanting to fit in. But then I think I came to a realization slowly that actually every single time I'm going to these really cool institutions, these like places where the country's being run, basically, I was the only Black guy 9 times out of 10. There would probably be me as the only Black guy, maybe like 2 Black women, about 5 Asian people, and everybody else was white. And I would sit there and think, actually, like, people always remember me because I was the only Black guy you met, and all I have to do is impress because I'm the only Black guy you're going to meet in the space, which is quite sad to say to say there should be more of us in the room. But I also saw that as this is a potential springboard, because every single person I speak to today, as long as I impress, they're going to remember, oh yeah, I remember the Black guy that was there talking about this.
Yeah.
Unlike everybody else in the room, it's like you might forget, like, oh yeah, I spoke to this guy, but you start confusing them. And I thought, actually, I need to run with this because nobody else has this.
Yeah, that's true. On the topic of Parliament, it's crazy to think that's actually where I met you as well, with a Rising Star, which was how many years ago now? Was it 2 or 3?
I can't remember.
2023, 2022. I think it's 2 years ago, maybe, potentially.
Maybe. I actually can't remember when that was.
You've achieved so much, you just can't remember.
No, that was a cool day as well.
It was really cool.
Because that was something.
It was really cool.
I like when I started uni, I had a list of these random like awards and stuff that I wanted to get. And what I would do, I would always email people to find out what the process is to get the award, and then try to reverse engineer the award.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I'm not saying that I was optimizing for awards or trying to do stuff just for an award.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things that I would look at the people on that list and think, oh my God, like, these people are so cool.
Really cool, yeah.
So then to be on
powerful people.
Yeah, to be in the list, it was like, oh, like,
yeah,
like, these people are really cool.
I'm really cool. Exactly. No, literally. What was I going to say? Actually, that's a good tip for listeners. So when you go to university, or if you're at university, I think a lot of people don't know that these awards, a lot of them are application based or nomination based. So I think what you did was really good as well, because I started to do that as well towards the end of second year, is to just maybe have a few awards in mind that you want to go for, or that you want to be nominated for, and just kind of set it as a goal. Because I think, like, in your case as well, like, these awards are actually very powerful because it gives you the platform, and it spreads your name out there and what you're working on. And in your case, you've used that platform for such positive change as well. So
I think the other part of it as well is, I would say, if you want to go for the awards, like, do the work first, because loads of people message me about other awards that I've won, and they just want to get the award, but they respectfully, they haven't done anything to warrant an award.
Yeah.
And I'm like, focus on doing the work. Just do really good work. Find something that you're really passionate about. Double down on that, and trust me, like, if you do that, the awards will come, because the work will speak for itself, kind of. And even if you don't get the awards, you still have the work that you've done as a proof point to yourself that, like, this is an award in itself.
Exactly.
No, fair enough. So with that, you're obviously on the podcast today, and that brings us into your own podcast, which you started. It's called Mind Gap.
Yeah.
In July 2023, and it's a podcast that addresses the critical issue of, like, health disparities within Black and brown communities. And how did you find that whole experience, like, even just starting a podcast? Like, what spurred you to do that?
Yeah, so I started the podcast because I was having conversations with really cool people all the time. And sometimes I'll come away from the conversation like, to me, this is common knowledge, but to others, this was like groundbreaking stuff. And I was like, why don't we just share the conversations that we're having? So I got a list of people that I thought were cool, and people who were doing really good work. And I was like, we're just going to sit down and have a conversation. And I wanted the podcast to be a tool that somebody could use to go from zero to being able to have an understanding or an idea of how to make changes in healthcare. So I didn't want it to be a podcast where it was like, like, Black men are more likely to die from this. Black women are more likely to die from that. Like, other communities are, and we're just kind of spewing the same rhetoric. I wanted it to be, yes, like, Black women are more likely to die during childbirth, but this is an organization called 5 Times More, and this is all the cool things that they're doing, and these are future ideas that you could probably take to do a lot more. I did that. We did about 25 episodes, and then I stopped. So yeah, I stopped because I thought it kind of got a bit repetitive, because I felt like we were having the same conversations and I didn't like the angle anymore. So I thought, once I get a better angle, which is more about building the future, kind of, as opposed to dwelling in the past, then I would be happy to like go again. But I just felt like we were always like, I hate to say it like this, but I felt like we were always complaining about the problems that exist and not spending enough energy on, yes, we know these problems exist. Yes, we know we're more likely to do this, but what can we do as grassroots? What can we do as government? What can we do as medium-sized organizations to be able to deliver change? And
it's interesting when you're talking. I'm finding loads of similarities with economics, which I'm quite surprised about, because I thought, completely different fields that we're in. But it's the same thing in economics as well, where you tend to dwell on the past or dwell on the problems, but there's not enough conversations around solutions. So for example, I've been to quite a lot of lectures on income inequality, and it'll be really interesting hearing about the causes of income inequality, because obviously it's important to understand the causes of things, which is LSE's motto. Please. I didn't mean to do that, I promise.
Moving
on,
obviously.
See what I mean? It's like it's in my personality. It's embedded. It's so bad. But yeah, obviously it's important to understand the causes of things to find those solutions. But I get what you're saying in terms of having like more forward-thinking conversations.
It's even like the thing that annoys me these days is like since the new government has changed, whenever anything's I didn't want to get into politics, but whenever anything is being spoken about, it's always, oh, we're doing this because of you guys couldn't solve this. And I'm like, this doesn't actually speak about the problem or like what we can do in the future. It's just two sides blaming each other, like, we're doing this because you did a bad job. And then the other side is like, well, we didn't do a bad job. You guys are doing a bad job. And I'm like, I feel like it just distracts from the point of like, like, are the old people going to get their energy bills paid? Like,
yeah. No, that's a really good point. So you're also quite active on social media. We were talking about this off camera. With basically, Praise and Malone both have Digi Osmos, and I feel quite left out. But how do you find social media? Like, is that something that came natural to you? Because I know you post quite a few vlogs on YouTube and Instagram as well. Do you like your social media community? How do you find that space?
Funny enough, last night, I was making a video about how originally I hated social media. And when Mind the Gap first started, the thing that I never really talk about is how all of my accounts were on private, besides the one Twitter page that posted Mind the Gap. And I never wanted any of my accounts to be public. And I just wanted the work to do the talking. I wanted to do hood rat stuff with my hood rat friends. And that's what my social media was for. But then, I don't know, I had a turning point where I started to think, actually, there is a lot of value in social media. And there is a lot of value in documenting your own journey, not to say like to get views or to get clicks, but just for you to have something to be able to look back on. And that's kind of where I started sharing more on like my own page. And I wish I did it sooner. One, because I probably have more followers, because there is a lot of people that impersonated me when Mind the Gap came out, and all their pages have like hundreds of Ks of followers, and it still burns me to this day.
That's so bad.
And then two, it's just a longer track record of documenting stuff. And that's kind of the reason why I started posting on YouTube, because I was like, I think 10 years from now, the only social media platform which will still be around is YouTube.
Really?
I think Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, I think all of it potentially could come and go, but I think YouTube in my head is like bulletproof.
That's so interesting, because I know a lot of people say that YouTube is dying because people have like short attention spans and it's like rise of TikTok. But I'm such like an oldie, like I love YouTube so much.
Yeah, but I feel like nobody watches TV as much anymore. And the substitute for that is YouTube. And I think YouTube will probably...
It's like YouTube and Netflix, really, isn't it?
YouTube will probably become like more TV-like. Like what we watch on TV today.
Already. Like even when people just sit down, oh, let's put something on, you're going... or most of the time, it would be YouTube that you look to. Yeah. But
and I think that's what makes it bulletproof. Unlike TikTok, maybe our attention spans will get fried to the point where we can't watch it anymore.
How have you found the experience, like, posting on social media? Because obviously, you mentioned originally that you wanted things to be private. How did it feel opening things up? And have you felt like it's been positive? Like, is it an experience you've enjoyed so far?
In the whole, I would say I've enjoyed it. And I enjoy the process. Like all the views, the likes, the comments, like, I don't really optimize for that. I optimize for the process. Like, can I be consistent in showing up and posting stuff? Even like when I've started vlogging recently, I'm just there, like, I just need to be able to put a vlog out almost like every week. If I can do that, eventually one day people are going to watch. And by the time people do watch, I'm going to have like, 50 vlogs that you can watch when people start watching me. So I think, I just optimize for the process and I enjoy the process.
Yeah, that was going to ask, do you enjoy it? Because for me, I was saying this, I love, I literally love editing. I love editing. I love filming. I love cameras. Like, I love all the behind the scenes. As much as the final product comes out and I'm happy with it, but enjoying it to me is just as important.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most important part, because the actual part, like the results part, it's always weird. Like we were talking about this on the way in. Like I've had people comment on my social media, like my exact location, and it's creepy or
it's scary.
I remember one thing I used to struggle with is when you have a social media presence, people almost like feel like they know you before they've actually met you. So I would meet people like at a networking event, for instance, and someone would mention something like, I don't even know their name. And they would say, oh, Malone, like, I saw you got new trainers last week. I really like your trainers. And I'm like, okay, like, thanks. And I'm like, I don't actually know your name. And it's so awkward. Like, there's this dynamic where you know me, but I don't know you.
Or like, you know what school I went to.
Yeah.
You know how many siblings I have, which I think I forget. Like, I forget I have said this.
Yeah.
But it does feel weird coming face to face with that. And then being like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's your own making. Like,
yeah,
you put the
exactly.
information out
That's
there,
what
so
you have
can't
to
be
remember.
mad. But
I have a funny story time, actually. We don't usually talk about relationships and dating life on the pod, but I'll give you guys a little bit of tea. So one time I went on a first date with someone, and it was a lovely date, but it was really weird because they'd actually seen my YouTube channel and stuff like that. And I didn't know this before that they had reached out to me. And I was just sitting at the table, and he was like, oh, you know, how's your job? How are you finding? And he said my company's name. And I was like, wait a minute, I did not mention that. And it was just quite weird because it's like he knew a lot about me and I didn't know anything about him.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it can be quite weird. And I think, like Praise is saying, I think when you're online, you just view it as a number. Like, I don't think I quite comprehend that number of views is actual real people, you know?
I think I use it now to just document my journey. And I'm sometimes strategic in what I share.
100%.
Because it's like what
We
I
are
share.
as well.
I wanted to get
some
response.
more than others.
Yeah, some things I talk about more than others. So even if you see a thing that people ask me all the time is like, Malone, why don't you ever share more stuff about medicine? Like, if you actually watch my vlogs, like let's say I've got a 20-minute vlog, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes will be me doing like medicine stuff, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And the other 18 is just everything else. Lifestyle. And it's like, for me, that's very strategic. One, because I don't want to build a brand around
based on that.
my work.
Yeah.
And then I'm like the days that I don't actually like work is like, oh, I can't detach myself from this.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it's like, I actually want to build a brand around everything else that I do, because that's like, I feel like more me than it is like just like, the job that I do.
I feel like that ties in really nicely to the next thing we wanted to talk about, which was your experience in property investing. Because I noticed that a lot of the vlogs you do are on property and like renovating. So how have you found that experience? And do you have any tips as well for anyone that actually wants to get into like renovating properties and getting onto the property ladder as a young person?
Yeah, so the whole reason why I started sharing that is because one of the things that I want to go into afterwards is, I've been saying for so long that I want to build a hospital. The reason why is because I genuinely think I could probably do it better. And for me, the metric of hospitals is people should be able to go to a hospital and get care that they want and be able to leave. Like, that's like the first principle. And I think currently at the moment with the NHS system and like just healthcare systems around the world, it's very broken to the point where we're reactive to everything. We're not proactive. Like, I think we should be dealing with people's health problems way before they even come in, like with all these complications of like diabetes, obesity, cancer. Like, there was so many opportunities for intervention long before. So I want to go on a journey to build a hospital. I happened to meet someone who was building a hospital, and I thought, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, what do you mean you're building a hospital? And they talked me through their whole process. And instead of reinventing the wheel, I was like, I'm just going to copy this. Like, the blueprint's already there. I just need to go and do exactly the blueprint.
Yeah.
So I thought, navigating through the world of property development, I've always had an interest in property as well. And it kind of just brought the two together, because hospitals, are just another form of property. Like, at the end of the day, a hospital is a form of real estate. Yeah. It's just a form of real estate where care is delivered. So we're on that journey. I think it will probably be a very long journey. But it's a journey that I think I'll be committed to. Yeah. And then advice for people trying to get in young, I think it's just exposure. I think one thing I've seen from the world of property is every single person who's not in property is a property expert. And you type in on Google and people tell you, oh my God, like doom and gloom, like the housing market's going to crash, this and that and this and that. But if you actually trace it back, people have been saying that for like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Or people always reference like the 2008 crash. And I think it's actually, you need to get your information from the people who are actually doing it. They're the people who will tell you the reality of it. They will say, actually, interest rates went up, it's a bit peak, like we're having to adapt, or they'll tell you, actually, now is a great time. And that's probably the best piece of advice I could give for young people trying to get in. Just try and find someone who's doing it. If you can't find someone who's doing it, when you're walking around, if you see literally scaffolding on a building, just walk in and ask, like, who's the owner? Could I speak to them? And 9 times out of 10, you'll probably find people are receptive, as long as you don't look like a policeman. Like 9 times out of 10, people will be receptive.
Are you inquisitive? Like, are you an inquisitive person?
What does that mean?
Like,
or what do you mean by that?
Like, you literally just said you'd advise someone if they see scaffolding, like, go and ask that person. That's inquisitive, like, taking. You think why something?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think it feels like it.
Maybe.
But
sounds weird. I didn't actually know what that means.
I think you are. Based on our conversation today you have. Yeah,
curious.
exactly.
Okay, yeah. I'm curious. So, simple English. I'm curious.
We look forward to hopefully seeing how the hospital.
Yeah, I'm very excited for you. And
don't worry, I'm going to show everything.
Yeah.
My wish with my vlogs is all these vlogs that I'm making right now are just like throwaway content, if that makes sense. As in, this is the content, like, you know, when you watch like old videos of like Drake in the studio before he made Take Care.
Yeah, so one big, what's it called? Documentary will come out.
Yeah, like some fat documentary comes out and it's like, oh my God, who was the author behind the documentary? It's like, I just put all my vlogs together.
Yeah.
And the last scene is like me on top of a helipad. It's a fat hospital.
And then they'll use this clip of you saying,
from the pod.
Exactly.
From the pod, like,
manifestation, guys.
Yeah, don't worry, soon come. Like, give us a few years.
It's pending.
We can't wait to see it. So it's honestly been such a pleasure having you on today, and I can't wait to listen to this back. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it's been good. I think it's nice to be in person to actually speak to the two of you. But before it ends,
we have something to ask you.
I wanted to ask you.
Oh, go on.
Do you want to go first, and then we'll ask?
Yeah.
No, I wanted to ask. Like, obviously, I've said that I hope that all of the vlogs and the content that I'm making eventually one day on like a fat helipad, just big hospitals. It's like the Mukwende clinic or whatever you want to call it. Like, what do you guys hope that will come from your content, like, going forwards?
Oh, that's a good question. Praise you.
No,
okay, I'll put praise in the hot
you should praise you.
No, do you know what? Actually, I will say our introduction to this podcast is so real and means a lot to us. Like, the reason why we're saying this is the #1 support network for students and graduates is because we're manifesting that. Like, I really do want this to be the #1 podcast and space and community for young people, because I feel like in our 20s and even prior to that in our teens, like, we're navigating so much in so many different areas of life, and it's easy to feel a bit lost and directionless.
Yeah.
So I think our vision is that this is a space where you can tune in week in, week out, and have comfort in knowing that you've got some people that can help you navigate those different stages of your life. And I think one thing that we set quite early on is the reason why this is called To My Younger Self and not like To My Younger Self podcast or show is because we want it to be so much bigger than that. We envision it being a movement. It's not just a podcast, it's a movement.
I think well said, truly. And I think based on how, I don't think we didn't start this as like a business. We started it as like a passion project that we've put, like, everything has been between us, like, done solely from that. And it's not with the aim of like making money, or it's truly just to give back to my younger self.
The LSE grads.
Oh, please. And with that being said, every time we have a guest on, we ask, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
The cogs are turning.
The clock is ticking.
Can it be? Does it have to be one?
Okay, go ahead. Like, give a double.
Give us your gem.
All right. To my younger self, I would say,
Oh no, go
No,
on.
it's a good.
I was going to say, to my younger self, I would say, I think growing up, I used to think that people or things were unattainable or certain people were super smart. And as I've grown up, I've come to learn that even the people in like the most powerful offices, I don't think are any more intelligent than you and I. I think a lot of the time, things boil down to exposure, and what you've been exposed to kind of gives you the direction for your life. So to my younger self, I would say, just do whatever you can to get exposure, do whatever you can to get into the room. And then you can kind of start navigating your way from there. And then the second part to that, I would say to my younger self that I think consistency is the name of the game. If you can do anything for 3 years and just commit to it, 3 years, 5 years, it doesn't even matter what you choose. Like, I think you're guaranteed to win if you're just consistent. And just be the person that continues to show up, continues to put the work in, continues to become 1% better every single day. And I think there is literally no way that you cannot win.
Wow, what a gem! What an absolute gem. That's incredible. I needed to hear that. That's motivating. That's really cool.
I think it's a guaranteed win. That's what I've got to learn.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. This was like such a moving conversation, and I'm sure that everyone will be able to take away something from this episode.
And thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of To My Younger Self. It's been your girl Praise.
It's been Alicia.
And it's been your boy Malone.
Hey.
And we will see you next week with another episode of To My Younger Self.
Bye,
Goodbye.
guys. Bye.